Peace, y'all. This is God in them streets. Once again, I want y'all to make sure y'all subscribe to my channel. Make sure that you hit the like button for my content. Everybody channel that I go on, I make sure that I hit the like button. So do the same here. Today on 4th of July, because we know that 4th of July is when they told the lie about giving us our independence. I found a very special tape video from a year ago from an individual that happened to live in my building in 345 Fountain Avenue, Cypress Hills,
East New York. I'm born and raised in East New York. I am a child of East New York. And when I say that, I'm more than just Cypress Projects. And I explain that. But I used to live in the middle in Cypress Projects, Fountain and Setup. And when my mom's had me, the aliens ain't coming time. So I was actually born in 365 Fountain Avenue in the Cypress Projects.
On the block, like,
no, it's a project.
So in the hall, in the building?
In the building.
Oh wow.
In the apartment. I was born, so when the doctors and them came, they took me to the hospital after I was born. So I was actually born in Cypress Projects.
Wow.
So
what this video is about is, for one, I want to show that I've been teaching back then. All the young guards and earths and everything that popped up in that portion of my project, which they called the 18 side. The 18 side, because like they say, originally, the majority of us were 5%.
Centers, and I won't disrespect
Tell the
them
truth.
and call them by their real names, because I'm gonna call this one by his real name. Nah. He still got me traumatized, so I can call by his name. But his name's Supreme. Yeah, and I knew his real name. And he was talking slick one day, and I called him by his real name, and he slapped the shit out of me. Damn. He said, "Yo, don't ever call me by that. My name's Supreme, Allah, Maddie, whatever."
You talking about Supreme locked up right now, though?
No. This is different Supreme. Supreme on the 18.
Cities, and we was called the Law Team. During this course of this video, Craig will show you the similarities that we had. One, he was born inside of Cypress in the year of 1972. 72, I was 10 years old. I had moved out there in 1968. So when he was born in the middle of the project back then, you know, you had big families like the Boyd family, which Stephen Boyd was Boys in High champion in football. He also was Golden Gloves. You know, you had the Drain family, you had the Sykes family, you had the Smith family. There was a whole lot of people back then that was from the middle. The Norrises, all those individuals I grew up with. Later on, you had the infamous Rick Martin and his family. Shout out to Pep. Shout out to Yusef, shout out to Junior, you know, Boo Brown, Drac, you know, Haig. Shout out to Haig's sister, Evelyn, Juan, you know, Islam, better known as Divine. You even had my girl Vern that used to mess with Mike Tyson. Because I remember the time when Mike pulled up on me with his Bentley, and he asked me where was 365 Fountain, and I had to tell him you had to go all the way around, because at that time we was right there on Blake and Fountain, which is across the street, IS 218 Junior High School, which is the same junior high school Craig went to. See, the reason why he didn't go to our public school was because we went to 214. Once again, like I said, when I got out to Cypress, it was predominantly white Caucasians. So we went to PS214 that sits right on the conduit. Once again, another one of those schools that's borderline Brooklyn and Queens. And he also went to the same high school as me and Tut, and I think even Glaze, a bunch of people that
Franklin K. Lane for 6 months. But coming up in the projects before crack, and I missed the dope era because I'm born in 1972.
Yeah.
So by the time I'm coming up, I'm like 77 when I start really noticing stuff.
Franklin K. Lane. And the reason why I went and attended, not just because I had knowledge at that time, but also I played sports. So to be able to remain on the basketball team, I had to get good grades, or grades enough to be able to play. But anyway, he goes on later on to explain, how everybody in the project back at that time was getting welfare, government food. This is before
cheese line. Everybody in that project was on the cheese line. So don't let nobody fool you back in the 70s. So about, I was going to. Everybody, family members on that cheese line, so it wasn't no embarrassment. Because people like, yo, go get that free cheese. Even though when you put it on bread, you couldn't melt it.
The food stamps. Around that time, I'm still going to Cypress daycare, still going away to the sleepaway camps, Camp Arenda, all those things that was provided by the BAL, Boys Athletic League. There was a white man back then that ran the community center. His name was Mr. Steiner. But anyway, he moved from the middle of the project to the front. Really one building over or two. I don't know whether he was in 365 or 375. But he moved to my building, which is 345. I knew his mother, his father, his sister, his 2 brothers. And just like me, a lot of guys go under the radar.
Understand Cypress. But that move right there may have saved my life or changed my life for the worse or better. I'm still here, so I don't know.
What do you mean move to the front? Like the front of the complex?
We got Cypress Projects is of, I think it's 30 buildings. It goes from Fountain through Seta to Euclid, and from Euclid all the way down to Linden Boulevard, from Linden Boulevard back down to Fountain, and back around. That's the radius. Inside Cypress, you got the front, you got Seta side, you got the hill, you got they call it the bus buildings because it's this metal bus in front of it we used to go play when as kids. But after a while they started calling it Tut building, King Tut building, because Tut from back there. And then you got the far back. We used to call that the Batman slide because they the only ones that got a slide back there that you can go in and slide down.
As a kid.
Yeah. Then people start calling it the milk jug because across the street it was a store called the Milk Jug for them across Linden Boulevard. Shot at a lot because they was at the set aside catch and not catch from the front, thinking that's the front. But no here no there. Always got it confused when they was talking about set aside catch, and I've been shot at a lot because they was at the set aside catch and not catch from the front. So it was different names over time, but we was always the front. And some people always got it confused when they was talking about set aside catch, and I've been shot at a lot because they was at the set aside catch and not catch from the front, thinking
a lot of guys go under the radar, but at the same time we groom the same way, we cut from the same cloth. Like he said, at the age of 8 he was taken by my man, we call him Little Wayne, because his father was called.
And we looking at different Star Wars men, and he like, yo, you like these? I'm like, yeah. He like, alright. So he popped the pack open, took the Star Wars man, put it in my sleeve.
Oh wow.
So I'm like, yo, what you want me to do? It's like, I got you, come on. So when we walk up to the front, now when you're going out the front of TSS, it's guards lined up at the door, and they'll stop whoever they want to stop. So he said, yo, listen, this is what you do. When the next family come out, walk with them. So I'm like, all right, cool. So next family came out with the bin out. He like, yo. I'm like, yo, I'm messed up. I never stole that before. And went right out into the parking lot and kept walking. He came behind me. He pulled the bin out. He like, yo. I'm like, yo, I'm messed up. I never stole that before. So I'm like, yo, I got Star Wars bin. So he like, no, we got Star Wars bin.
How old is he? Was he like more like?
Yeah, he, let me see. He gotta be,
At that time.
he's my middle brother's age, so he gotta be, if I'm 8, he had to be 14, 15, somewhere in there.
He was a child too himself.
Somewhere in there.
He was a child too himself.
Yeah. He was like 14, 15. So we take the men, we cross the street, and we hit him by Plaza. Go back in the store. We did this like 6, 7 times coming in and out. I don't know how these guards didn't stop me. I had the same beat up coat on. So when we come back to park, I got mad toys. I'm like, yo, I came up. And my mom didn't buy me that many toys. Christmas came, we had the best Christmases you can ever imagine. But she didn't buy me many toys regularly. So I know how to do this. I took them outside because they was brand new.
Yeah.
And I buried them in the dirt. Went on and played. I think we was catching bees that day. So we catching bees in the bottle and all that. See, we catch the most bees. Then came back, they was all dirty and all that. So by the time I brought them back in the house, I was like, where you get these toys from? Oh, I borrowed them from Johnny. She like, alright. What's him?
He ain't had no clue.
Yeah, so in my school, how the school is built is that my school is only 5 blocks away from Cypress, on Berman and Blake. So everybody in my project mostly went to my school. Everybody on them side blocks going up went to my school.
So you knew everybody.
I knew everybody. And I explained this why some people in Cypress didn't know everybody, but I did. But going to that school, I became a bully. And Lewis and Jerome Scantlebury, if y'all watching, I apologize. But they was my 2 victims.
Called Big Wayne, John Wayne. And he was another prominent figure from out our building because back then, like I said, the black men that were there as fathers, they wasn't just fathers to their own children, but they was also fathers and individuals that we looked up to. Like he said, Mr. Vaughn used to play, stick ball with us in the middle of the circle, punch ball, Coco Livio, Skelly, all these different things. Johnny on the pony, that's when kids had fun. That's when you had to be outside. You couldn't be inside on a game all day long. My grandmother, she didn't go for that. She was like, once she feed you that breakfast, it's time to go outside. And plus, like they say, kids couldn't be in grown folks' conversation. But moving right along, when he got with Lil Wayne at that time, who was watching him, he went to a famous place that we all kind of started our little history in crime, and it was ironic that he mentioned TSS, which was right across the street from Pink House.
Back then, it was all about pink houses because when you cross out our projects, you got another project across the street called Pink Houses, and then across from Pink Houses is Plaza. That's another project. I wouldn't call them a projects. They was more complex, and we always looked at them like the uppity dudes because of how they buildings were structured and all that. And I don't even think they took welfare people in there.
Yeah.
So we always looked at them different. But
they did.
TSS.
Houses. And in our history and our mathematics, it was called the powerhouses, But we all went over there. See, I started a little younger than them because I'm 10 years older than him. So by the time he got to TSS for Star Wars, I had already been in there stealing vampire blood, and going back to school, in elementary school, and putting the blood all over and faking till the teachers found out what was going on. Any of y'all from that era, y'all know about that vampire blood thing. And then as we graduated. You know, shout out to my man Boxhead, and also supreme shout out to my brother that's no longer here, that died in April the 12th, 1979. Knowledge born, God born, which was Little Larry, Shifty, Gangster Larry, and my man GB, Great Best. All of us was going over there back in the days. That's when they had the Wilson little track suits out, and you know, we was stealing track suits. Also, we was writing graffiti, so they had the little paint area down there. Like I was telling somebody, I was a part of that 3Y Boys thing, and we used to go in there with the Rust-Oleum paint, and you wanted that big cap off of it, so when you did your joint, it would come out extra thick. You know, when we was getting the erasers and making our own, because the palettes was the biggest ones that they got, but we used to get the erasers, cut a can, all that, and make what we call uniwars. So all that, part of all that back